What's up, everybody? This week, we're going to do something super exciting. Uh, I'm being facetious, but it's something that you have to know. And it's something called subdivisions. Subdivisions are the way we describe how we count. And so, for the purpose of this lesson, I'm going to be using a typical bar of 4/4. So that means 4 beats in the measure. So when you hear the metronome, a lot of times I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to start with that. I'm going to use the Soundbrenner app. I actually have it on my laptop. Mac allows it, so I think that's great. So I'll have that for y'all to see next to me, or somewhere on the screen. All right, so I'm using 60 BPM. I'm starting off with quarter notes, and I want y'all to hear it. This will be something very familiar to y'all, but we're going to start going into how we separate and count other things. So I'll have visuals, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this will probably sound familiar to you because if you've been practicing at 60 beats per minute or BPM, this is where I've encouraged y'all to start. And once you get a feel, once you get everything under your hands, at that point you start moving to a faster speed. So next, we're going to go to eighth notes. So this is quarter notes. So the way the subdivision works is you split. And so from 4, you go to 8. And I really like the way Soundbrenner has things set up. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so you can feel the rhythm or the speed of that rhythm has not changed. We're just accenting different subdivisions, or all the subdivisions in the eighth notes. And so if you play along with this, and I'm just going to hold down the G on the E string. 2, 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's literally what I want you to practice. Practice with the metronome. Practice working with the different subdivisions that I'm going to talk about today. Once you get comfortable, you can start adding in things where it's so you want to make sure you're counting. You want to make sure you know where the 1 is. That way you can anticipate where the changes will happen. So a lot of times changes will happen on 1s. There are obviously things that happen where it's before the 1. But for what we're going to learn and the way I teach in this environment, we're going to put the changes primarily on the 1 until more advanced stuff comes later on. So I'm going to show you another one. And this one, it's tricky to count. You really have to know where the 1 is. So if you look at the screen, this button right here, this is how you change your subdivisions. So I'm going to go down and see this one where it has 4 across. That's 16th notes. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E. 2E and 3E and 4E and 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and so this one is trickier to count because it almost feels like you've got a woodpecker just tapping on your head the whole time. But a lot of times, depending on the music, and I'm going to stop this, that's really tough to hear in my ears and talk at the same time. A lot of times in a lot of metal or just aggressive music, we start using the 16th notes to really bring a lot more energy to what's happening. So these subdivisions are really important. So you have the whole notes, and those are super important. That's laying the foundational groundwork for whatever's happening. You have the half notes, and so you're playing two notes in that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then you get to quarter notes. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so you see how it's starting to divide out. You're getting more notes in that same measure of time. 16th notes, 1E and 2E and 3E and 4E and so if you say it out loud and you're doing it while you're playing, working with a metronome, you'll start understanding this. And so it's super important that you really work with a metronome while you're doing this. Now, the area that a lot of bass players, especially when they're new, things just start tripping them up. It starts getting loosey-goosey in the eighth notes, and especially if it's something where it's just a quick eighth note going into it. And there's things that sneak up on me where my fingers just don't get in there and get it in time. 16th notes, especially when it's something where you're just moving all over the place, you can get lost. You can really just kind of like, unless you know the music, unless you know where the one is on the beat, all of a sudden, you're just trying to figure out what's happening. And so you really want to practice with a metronome to where it feels natural. So those are some of the hidden problems. Speeding up it's easy to do, especially when you get to the 16th note. If you're not used to practicing with it, all of a sudden you start rushing. That's a common thing. Even when you're trying to do whole notes and anticipate the whole note at 60 BPM, it's easy to rush. So the more you practice, the more you'll learn to anticipate it. It'll be part of your internal groove. There's something, especially among the bass players and drummers, we call it pocket. The pocket concept, or play in the pocket. And that's really talking about a feel. And same as the way we use the word groove. Groove is a feel. And so playing in the pocket, it's consistent. Now there's three variations of how this might look. One, you're working with something like a metronome or the drummer, and you're playing slightly ahead. You're not rushing the beat, but you're playing slightly ahead to where it's just a little more energy. It's just like there's a push. That's very common. And you're being consistent about where you're putting that note every single time. It's not you're slightly ahead and you're adjusting. You're slightly ahead and you're adjusting. That's not it at all. This is intentional. The second is you're dead on that beat every time. It's rock solid. It's just making it pump. The third, and this is something that depending on the music, this one is fun to listen to, but it's playing slightly behind, but it's consistent and it's intentional. It's not you're playing a quarter note behind the beat or something. It's just you're slightly behind the beat, and it just gives this kind of this relaxed, almost lazy feeling, but it's intentional. And for certain types of music, it's a great feeling. If you play that way and you're too far behind the beat, it's too noticeable and people realize that you're not quite there. Yeah, and it's just like you need, something's not right. So there's 3 ways of doing this. Primarily, what you want to focus on is being dead on. When you have mastered what you're working on and it's dead on with the metronome or the drummer, when it feels right, you can step into something where it's slightly ahead, but you're dead on every time. So the next thing I wanted to show you, and this is a tricky one, and it's a huge growing opportunity and very challenging even for me. I'm used to listening to a metronome or a drummer and playing on the 1 and the 3. Now I'm going to set the metronome to playing on the 2 and the 4. This is going to require you to listen to that and anticipate where the 1 and the 3 is. Two, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So even I'm having to really focus to make sure I know where the 1 and the 3 is at. But this will help you really develop your internal groove, your internal metronome. And if you look at the screen, Soundbringer allowed me to be able to go in there and actually set it up to where only the 2 and the 4 is being played right now. So I really, if you haven't figured it out, I really like the app. Okay, so my goal for you, and the homework and all that kind of stuff, practice with the metronome. After you feel comfortable, if you're using the Soundbringer app, take the 1 and the 3 out of it where you cannot hear it and practice it. See if you can feel where that 1 is landing. And then if you really want to take it even further, I would take the app, take everything but the 1 and mute it to where all you have is the 1 clicking. See if you can still count and land on the 1. That's a very tricky thing. That's something, as the slower the BPM gets, it's hard for me. It's going to make you a better musician, a better person with greater rhythm understanding as far as how you develop in that area if you practice this way. One of the best videos I saw as far as someone teaching Subdivision was a Berklee College of Music session with Victor Wooten and another bass player. They were literally taking the metronome and putting it on different places within the subdivisions, and the students had to actually play. They actually had to have this internal rhythm that was already in place because of the amount of time that they practiced. And so I understand from being in music school, that's all you eat and drink. I spent a little bit of time at a place called Musicians Institute in Hollywood, California. And so when you're in that environment, that's all you're doing is music. And so when you watch a video like that, where you have these students working with subdivisions at such an advanced level, and if they're working with 16th beats and some eighth note beats, but it's really an opportunity to see what people are learning. So if you like this, I want you to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.